It's all kicking off just in the breaks here. Well, welcome back. It's day 2 of the sensational lockdown leaks, which have piled pressure on disgraced former Health Secretary Matt Hancock. Today's files reveal then Education Secretary Gavin Williamson, the man who was fired 3 times. Imagine how bad you've got to be to achieve that accolade. He blasted teaching unions for looking for excuses not to work during the pandemic. Hancock called them absolute arses, which is pretty ironic coming from him. Well, tonight I can reveal what an absolute arse Hancock and his own top team were about me. Quite extraordinary, this. First, in May 2020, I got COVID symptoms and I took a COVID test. And so I tweeted this to say, look, until I get the results back and I get the all clear, I can't do Good Morning Britain. Hancock immediately tweeted his team with an opportunity. He wrote to them saying, tempting as it is, I probably shouldn't comment on this, but a few colleagues pointing out kindly that he can only have a test because of the ramp up of testing in the past week would be good, so beneficial for him if he wished me well. An advisor wrote, you should tweet him best wishes, totally straight, wish him all the best and hope he's okay. Be really classy and then get others to point out how classy you're being. And that's exactly what Matt Hancock did. If you test positive, I sincerely hope it's mild, he tweeted me publicly. And other people praised him for being so classy. And that wasn't his intention at all. And a series of fawning Hancock followers duly congratulated his commendable maturity, exactly as he and his team planned. Classy stuff. Well, in March of the following year, this actually gets better. By which time Matt Hancock had presided over one of the worst COVID responses of any of the wealthiest countries in the world, I'd left my job at Good Morning Britain. We just discussed that. You already know the story. We've just been debating it. What I didn't know until today is that the Health Secretary, Mr Hancock, and the then Social Care Minister, Helen Whately, during a deadly pandemic, they saw an opportunity here as well. Helen Whately messaged in the WhatsApp group to Matt Hancock, how about we celebrate the departure of Piers at or after our team meeting tomorrow, PM? Just a thought. Hancock replied with one word, perfect. Would have been, wouldn't it, if they'd had a big party to celebrate me losing my job after actually holding people like those two to such vigorous account for the previous year. Only one problem. If they did have that party, we don't know. Lockdown restrictions at the time would have meant that that kind of party to celebrate me losing my job would have been strictly prohibited, illegal. And the people that made that law would have been them. Well, joining me now is our very own Isabel Oakeshott, who got that sensational scoop. TalkTV presenter Richard Tice, who probably has known about the scoop longer than most of us. And political journalist Ava Santina is still with us, struggling with, I think, is a burgeoning cold, which, if you give it to me, means you won't be back on the show for at least 6 calendar months.
Neither will you, by the looks of how unwell she is.
Obviously not COVID. Fascinating little insight just involving me in these things, not significant by any means compared to all the other significant stuff, but interesting into their mindset about how they just were spinning everything and how jubilant they were to get someone who was calling them out on all of their nonsense repeatedly, getting what they saw as his due comeuppance.
I mean, I did a search for your name today, Piers, and I have to say that there were so many mentions of you that I had to give up trying to pull them all out. Look, they were, frankly, obsessed by you. They were continually wondering what to say to you to keep you in the place that they wanted you to be. They were worrying about the extent to which you were challenging them. You and I differed over what you should have been challenging them on. Where we did agree is that they should be held to account.
Right.
And they didn't like that. And they were absolutely overjoyed when you left your job.
I also found, Richard, that the one about COVID, I mean, at that time, COVID was still, this is very early on in the first wave. You know, one of my Good Morning Britain colleagues, Kate Garraway, her husband, was critically ill and remains so from COVID. So it was no laughing matter for us if somebody got COVID in their 50s at the time with no vaccine. So I was pretty concerned. Actually, it turned out I didn't have it then. I did get it the following year, but I didn't have it when I feared I might, and when it was really scary, you know. Certainly I wasn't laughing about it. This was a pretty serious moment. And yet the way they reacted even to that, pretty callous.
But that's what we know, is that actually they were laughing about lots of things at a time when they had successfully terrified the nation. And in those first few weeks, no one knew what was really going on, but they seemed remarkably relaxed about it. That was sort of May 2020. And the idea that they could be wasting time in the nicest possible way, Piers, thinking about you, they should have been focusing on the science. What's the latest data? What are the right decisions to make? What are we getting right? What are we getting wrong? What do we need to change? They shouldn't be focusing about any individual at all. And I just find that whole thing throughout this process extraordinary.
Well, I mean, what we'll see in tomorrow's Telegraph is the kind of gloating and the gleefulness with which they reacted when people were arrested or got into trouble with the authorities for supposed breaches of the lockdown restrictions. They were very keen, for example, to see Nigel Farage punished, and even went to the extent of trying to get the Home Office involved in making sure that he was
tough question for you on
punished.